Welcome to Chamber Talk, brought to you by North Orange County Chamber, where we explore the stories and insights of leaders, business owners and CEOs from various sectors who are making a difference in our community and region. Whether you're tuning in via podcast or joining us via video, we're glad to have you here. I'm Andrew Gregson, your host today, and we have a special guest, Todd Huffman. Todd, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Fun.
So I wanted to start off a little bit, really, Todd, because you do lots of different things. One of them is what we're doing today. But I just wanted to maybe share with our listeners, a little bit of your background, a little bit about digital media, storytelling, how you got all into that type of thing. And
yeah. Well, it's interesting. I went to school to kind of be a video person, director, editor. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but got side railed over Long Beach City College to start a business and go into the bicycle business, which I was a professional BMX racer back in the early 80s. And, so the college thing kind of took, a detour. And, 10 years later, I became the marketing director for this big bicycle company, GT Bicycles, down in Santa Ana, and ended up running there. We had a video department. Oh, wow. And so kind of full circle, was kind of leading a department that, we had artists and graphic designers and race teams and things like that. But the video thing was also part of our, responsibility. So we started producing shows for Fox TV, Prime Ticket, Liberty Sports, BMX racing shows and, mountain bike stuff. So, that kind of started it, right? And then I left there in 1998 and then was doing our own, some other productions. And then in 2003, we formed Pipeline Digital Media. And, kind of been doing it ever since.
So what type of BMX racing did you used to do? Was it racing over the little humps there, or freestyle, or?
No, racing over the little humps, I guess you would call it.
Right.
That's how BMX was born. Was doing that, and then the freestyle evolved out of that. Yeah. So, so I used to be a pro racer. I lived in Long Beach and raced for a big company called SE Racing, which is now kind of a cool core brand for the kids that do the big wheel BMX bikes and, ride wheelies all over the place and cause traffic mayhem. So
now I see also on your social media you do a lot of things with motorbike racing and things like that. You want to share a little bit about the motorsport industry?
When we started the company in 2003, my partner Don Huffman, not Huffman, I'm Huffman, he's a Hoffman. Anyhow, he is good friends with Stacy Peralta, famous skateboarder, kind of before Tony Hawk, and our company is called Pipeline Digital Media, named after the Pipeline Skate Park, which the Hoffman family built and ran. So we were wanting to do, Stacy Peralta had come out with his Dogtown and Z-Boys documentary, famous skateboard documentary, groundbreaking, and we wanted to do something similar because it was just so cool. And we thought BMX and whatever, but the market was too small. Then I said, hey, what about motocross, dirt bikes, because I got involved with BMX because I really wanted to be a dirt bike rider, right? And there was no, documentary type of
information back then, was there, I suppose?
Well, no one had ever done one before, just magazines when we were kids, and so we created a TV series for the Speed Channel called The Motocross Files. And it was kind of like a behind the music kind of show. Each episode covered a different champion that, these are world-class national and world champions, and it was pretty groundbreaking to have a show like that in that dirt bike world, and it kind of put us on the map for doing more of that stuff. And since we've gone on to do several feature-length films about various subjects in that world, and we're working on one right now that'll be out in 2026 called Blackwater, and we kind of are known for that stuff, so it's fun.
And what sort of, as you were leading into this, the journey that you've been so divulged into over the last few years, or last, many years, should I say, what gave you that entrepreneurial type of idea where you switched from working for somebody doing something to, I'm going to go do this myself?
I haven't had many jobs in my lifetime. I think maybe 6 or 7 total, besides working for myself. And And when I left to kind of start my own thing with the bicycle business, my mind was always bigger than my pocketbook. Big ideas on ads and marketing, and we just kind of muddled along. We're kind of stayed kind of small. So I got the opportunity when I work for GT, was like, oh, I get to use their pocketbook now, and so it's just as rewarding of someone else's money, and I didn't reap the rewards of the big payoff because it's my business, but it's someone else's business. But it was still fun to be able to
dabble in
creatively
it, right.
do those things that you can never do when you're on your own, right? And I got more joy from that than working towards a fatter wallet.
Now, is that you mentioned earlier you're creating a film right now, Blackwater, and coming out next year, I'm assuming. That's what you mentioned. Now, TV's changed for us, hasn't it, over the last few years? Has that changed the way that you, and I don't know this, so it's a question I'd like to learn about, is how you sell it to the channels or to the subscription companies like Netflix and things like that? How does that go around these days?
Well, years ago, like when we started our first show, the Motocross Files, being like an independent producer, it's not like we have agents and all that stuff. You kind of would do these deals called barter deals, right? Where, you would produce the show and give it to the network, like Fox or Speed Channel, for free, and they give you like 6 commercials time slots.
Okay.
And then you sell those to your sponsors of the show, right? And you create these packages that have, they're brought to you by billboards, and, you're listed on the website, or you get some extra stuff. And it was hard because you had to be a salesman,
right,
and then go be creative and be a producer or director too, right? So you wear a lot of hats in that. This new project, thank goodness, we are hired by the company who puts on this famous dirt bike race called the Blackwater 100 from 1975, and it's evolved into this big national championship series called the Grand National Cross Country Series. So that organizing body is actually just paying us. We're just hired
to do the job,
to produce this movie for them and hand it over. But we're also working real closely with them because it's new for them to be in this business, right? So we've already reached out to, streamers and theatrical distributors that we worked with in the past to put the movie in the theaters, and so we're already working on it. We just barely started shooting, and we're already working on the distribution of it.
That's pretty amazing.
So,
do you feel? I'm assuming because it's still in the ballpark of what you used to do back in the day and love so much. Does it help that you do have a good, strong knowledge of, BMX, motorcycle, things like that when you're shooting this sort of stuff, or is it just a case of I've got a camera, I can do it?
No. It's for sure. Our whole crew that works like on this GNC, the Blackwater thing, they're all dirt bike fans. They all ride. They all shoot other dirt bike events, and they're enthusiasts too, so they're not afraid to work 12 hours and go out and like we were just in South Carolina last weekend, and it was just a muddy
mess,
ugly rainy mess, right? And it was fun.
Now, obviously, you've produced some serious content over the years. Is there anyone that you're particularly proud of, and what makes you feel so good about that particular one?
The Motocross Files series that we first did is still near and dear to my heart, and I would like to be able to do a new version of it, and we're actually trying to get that going and find sponsors for it. But the movie we did, it's 10 years now ago, called Penton, the John Penton story, was really special because it was like, I don't want to say like a real movie, but we had a kind of a real budget. It was paid for entirely by Kickstarter, crowdsourcing. So that was kind of a unique challenge to get it funded by, just the fans of the sport, right? $10, $1,000, $10,000 added up to help pay for it. I got to work with Lyle Lovett as the narrator for it. So we were in Houston for 2 days, within a studio, and we did reenactments and got to travel to Europe for 2 weeks with the Penton family, and it just turned out really good, and really proud of it. Won some awards, and I don't know, if I died tomorrow and that was on my tombstone.
You'd be happy.
He made the Penton movie. I'll be good.
That'd be good. Now, for me, obviously, I think there is a difference between shooting video footage and then potentially making a movie. I've never really even thought about that. I might be able to do that. But you've been a professional. Is there a big difference between the two if you're creating video footage or you're just putting something together for a movie?
Yeah, and I still have trouble wrapping my head around the whole TikTok and YouTube influencer thing because, I'm a storyteller, right? I like to tell people. I can run my phone camera, right? But I don't run the big cameras like you have in the studio here, Andrew. We hire sound guys, we hire camera guys, and they don't even let me roll up the electrical cords, and we're done with the shoot, right? So it's all about the story, right? And, if you have a good story, it just should basically cut itself together, I mean, what people do with their phones and they get, millions of views on whatever, I just, it's hard for me to fathom how, I know how it gets done, but it's that it's so easy to do, and that, and people ask me all the time, like, man, why don't you make YouTube videos or something like that? I'm like, it's just not my thing, and,
right.
And I mean, if you were to go to Fullerton right now, they're shooting this huge television series in town right now, and they're taking over the whole town with movie trucks and television
food trucks and everything else.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was, because we were there for the Fox Theater because they're using the lights on the roof, and I got to keep going through the line for the craft services today, and they had all this amazing food and hand squeezed juices and making the omelets for people, and I'm like, man, this is just a different world. It's not what I do.
Right.
My documentary, we go, there's 3 of us that travel on an airplane back to the races, and we hire a local sound guy and start editing in my house, so.
Now that's a nice little segue there, because you just mentioned Fox Theatre there. Mm-hmm. Fox Theatre, for folks who aren't very familiar with Fullerton, is a big deal in Fullerton, has been for a very long time.
Yep.
Rather than asking you questions about it, would you like to just lead in and explain a little bit about the foundation, what you do there, what the whole idea about saving the Fox Theatre is about?
Well, I have to give you the Reader's Digest version, but, I moved to Fullerton in 2003 from Huntington Beach, and just knew a couple people in town, and I live right up the street from the theater, and walked by the theater to get coffee at the coffee place, and asked a friend, one of the couple friends I knew, hey, what's up with that old Fox Theater? They go, oh, there's a group trying to save it, from the wrecking ball. There's, the guy that owns it's trying to sell it to a developer, and they're going to plow it down and make, ugly stucco apartment buildings there, and they could use your help. And I said, okay. So I called the people, and 2 weeks later I'm on the board, because I'm a marketing guy at heart too, right? So the video stuff, I was a marketing director for GT for 10 years, right? So the video kind of goes side by side with it. So anyhow, so I get on the board, and, we get the city to put up a challenge grant to buy the theater. So the city promised half at $1.65 million if we would raise the other half for the 3.3 purchase price. And it took a year, and came down to the 25th hour of extensions, etc., from the owner, and with a developer who let us take over their option, because the developer who was going to build the ugly apartments, they were committed, they had to buy it, right? But they could assign their option, right? And when it came time down to it, it's like the wrecking ball was driving down the street, and we were still short. And picket signs out in front of the theater, and people stopping at the side of the theater and dumping their ashtray change into
into buckets
Halloween
and things?
Buckets and stuff like that, right? So it was a big effort. And then out of the blue, on November 17th, this elderly gentleman walked in our little office, and myself and Jane Reifer, the foundation president, were in there, and he says, how much were you, I hear you're trying to save that old theater up the street. How much is short? And Jane was like, we both were kind of nervous. She's like, 670. I just round up. I go, $700,000. He said, okay, how about I give you $1 million, and you meet me over at Citizens Bank at Wilshire and Harbor Boulevard in 2 hours.
Wow.
And he walked out the door. And sure enough, we went over there, and he was already there. had a cashier's check made out to the foundation for $700,000. He gave it to us and said, I'll give you another $100,000 a month for 3 months for even $1 million. This is a gift for Fullerton. Please keep my name anonymous. I don't want anybody to know about it. And he walked out the door and never saw him again.
Wow, how amazing is that?
And the theater was saved.
Wow.
So it's a really good story because, even people in philanthropy these days say that was a unicorn.
Sure.
That does not happen.
Sure.
People want the paperwork, they want the parking spot, they want their free tickets, they want their name on the whatever.
Yeah.
This guy didn't want none of that.
That's
out
amazing.
the door. It was amazing. And so to this day, all the volunteers who are like on the sidewalk picketing and, the core supporters of the theater, they named him, because no one knows his name except me and a couple other people. They named him Clarence.
Okay.
After the angel in It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, wow, look at that.
So forever, Clarence has been synonymous with the anonymous donor at the theater. So, that was 20 years ago, and we've been hard at it. We've got over $16 million invested in the theater. We have millions to go still, but we have the wind at our back, we like to say. We're just finishing up what's known as a phase 2 construction in our world, which, the phase 1 was all the seismic work getting done, the rehabbing of the retail property on the corner that is now Drip Coffee and Sushi Fire. Just a lot of internal work you can't see from the street, right? Mm-hmm. Elevator shafts, plural, for future construction. I mean, we basically built the bones of a 3-story building between what's known as the tea room, which is the retail side on the harbor side of the theater, right next to Angela and Vinci's building, and the theater. Mm-hmm. And you can't see this when you drive down the
past
street.
It just looks like nothing's going on.
But it's this huge 3-story staircases and infrastructure, and additional, 3,000 square feet of space was added. And so that was phase 1. And so phase 2 has been with the help of our Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva, was part of a $2.5 million grant that she got for us. And with that, we've been able to build out almost the entire new air handling HVAC system. We have beautiful new bathrooms that we're so proud of after 20 years of having no bathrooms in the theater. And of course, our lobby's getting restored. It looks beautiful. We have pictures, and we're just about finished with that. And so, for all intents and purposes, we're going to be open for business in 2025 for select events.
That's amazing.
We have something coming up for April 12th, which is only less than 2 months away.
Yeah, not far away.
And then the Fox's 100th birthday is in May, and we're going to have a big public event there. So things are happening.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. Now, in today's world, because obviously, we're always business orientated. So in today's world, a lot of people are going to be struggling now because funding is being cut or what have you. And, you didn't really have the luxury of just people the government giving you funding. You actually had to go out and seriously go and work for this and get it. So, 16 million is a lot of money. Over the years, what really do you think stood out to help you as an organization to, get this revenue that you needed?
It's the theater itself, Andrew. I mean, the place has been there for 100 years this year. Yeah. It is an institution, architecturally, historically, emotionally for people. If I told you as many times I heard about, I got my first whatever in the balcony of the Fox Fullerton and all the movies they remembered, it's just a special place. Right. And I think, it would have been a travesty had it been bulldozed. Sure. And these days, I think the younger generations actually appreciate it more, They don't know what happened in 1955 or whatever, but they see this great old place, and I don't know. It seems like a lot of young people I know are nostalgic fools too. So, which is a good. That's quality.
That's a good thing. And moving forward, it is going to be theater that's on, or is it cine theater, or what? It's
going to be an entertainment venue.
Okay.
And man, anything we can do in there to make a buck, right? from
So we could
music.
be having our own comedy shows and things there, you think, and wow,
Comedy,
look at that.
we hope to have some chamber events there.
Well, it's our 132nd birthday this year.
Okay.
So, we're only 30 years apart.
I'll just offer the theater
I think that'd
for
be a
you
really
to
cool
host
place.
something there.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
For the North Orange County Chamber of Commerce I'm just going to say I'm going to give you the theater for
that would be amazing, because we still are really Fullerton Chamber of Commerce. It's just our DBA is North Orange County Chamber. So that's pretty
you have
cool.
my commitment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you mentioned a little bit earlier, you're looking already to have venues this year. Moving into 2026, 2027, is that when you're thinking maybe we're open for business totally, or is there still quite a lot of stuff to go on?
There's still quite a lot of stuff to go on, but, the COVID really hindered what we were supposed to get out of that $2.5 million grant we got from Sharon.
Right.
And part of that, the whole scope of that project was all the ADA work. It was everything we got done with it, but it also had this ADA work that was needed in the theater auditorium, which is crucial to getting a certificate of occupancy.
Right. That's the big one that people actually struggle in business, isn't it?
Well, if we had that, we can officially say we're open for business 7 nights a week.
Right.
Right? But because we don't have that, just because the ADA work's not done, but bathrooms, environmental control systems are in, all the other stuff, we still have to have a special permit, which isn't a big deal, and have what they call a fire watch from the fire department.
Okay.
But even now, the fire watch, as of our Day of Music event last summer, we can train a volunteer to do it, so we don't have to pay the fire department to be there for events. So it's just a couple extra steps, and in the spirit of what we're trying to do with the theater for the last 20 years, the Fox is going to be open, and we're actually waiting right now, Andrew, for some revised, modern, updated construction estimates that will kind of tell us how much, in various, if you want it done this way or this big project, whatever, what that'll cost. And it's going to be part of a capital campaign strategy that'll get launched pretty soon, as well as potentially an investment strategy.
All right.
Because there's people that want to give you money.
Sure.
And have to give you money because they have to get rid of it.
Right.
But there's people that can't give it to you, but they may park it with you for a while. Right. And so we have a vehicle, kind of a mechanism to take that money as well. So
that's smart.
People can invest in the theater and the operations.
Now, obviously, this is no little undertaking, and you've got a pretty large amount of people who are behind it as well. In the future, how expensive do you think it will be to keep the business that it will be by then, sort of like running? Do you feel it's going to be a lot? Is it not so much as long as we keep on to it? I mean, because it's an old building too, there's lots of structure. I know you're fixing things, but...
Well, with the retail properties around it, supporting it, because there's, what?
Yeah,
10,
rodeo, something's coming in, right, around it?
Yeah, that's next door, right? So that's a big deal. I mean, the Fox has almost 20,000 square feet of retail support.
Oh, wow, that is big.
Yeah. So, that doesn't hurt. Help pay the annual bills and,
right.
And with that, and plus the conservative estimates of only, I think, having like 135 event days a year, which is about a third, pretty conservative.
Sure.
The pro forma on the income, kind of the EBITDA thing, is like in the black, right? And the it's not like a hockey stick growth chart, but it's kind of a nice steady line, right? Paying back debt,
right?
Still growing,
sure.
Not having to ask the city for
money,
right? maybe have a few other fundraisers a year, because now the theater's open. Everybody's super excited about it.
That's
they want their names on all these naming opportunities that are going to be available. So it's all good, because the theater has all these revenue opportunities in it. The theater's like a inventory. It's like a store of naming opportunities, right? Chairs and lobbies and staircases and whatever. And you just can sell that stuff, forever. Plus every little space is rentable for a party or a business meeting or lunch or a wedding or a quinceanera.
That's true. I didn't really think about that. And with everything that's going on right now, if people who aren't involved hear this or even just stumble across it and would like to get more involved, how can they do that? What do they do to reach out to you or whoever to be involved in some way?
Yeah, the best way is just through our website, foxfullerton.org. You go to the donations page, and that's been kind of built out, and it's a little more robust, because we have, besides just plain donations, there's naming opportunities are on there, some of them. Employer matching through Benevity Corporation. We'll take stock through Morgan Stanley. We have an account with Morgan Stanley. I won't mention a name, but a year or so ago, I was in Mulberry Street, downtown Fullerton, having dinner with some people, and someone tapped me on the shoulder, and a well-known family gentleman from one of the families said, "Hey, Todd, you guys have a brokerage account?" And of course I knew who he was. I said, "No, but we can get one." And he goes, "Go get one, because I want to transfer some stock to you guys."
Wow, that's awesome.
So we went or opened an account with Morgan Stanley, and he transferred some stock of Apple and some of the other, blue chip type companies, and it's good. It's grown in value, and we're getting ready actually to spend it on some work to be done in the theater the next 2 months. So.
That's fantastic news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you been able to use a lot of local contractors to help you, or is it a specialized topic sometimes with some of the stuff
it's interesting you mentioned that, because we are so proud of just the last, maybe only 4 months, Andrew, that because we've kind of gotten the lobby and stuff, the kind of the sexy things kind of done, and people can see real progress. Bathrooms and seismic work are not sexy.
No.
Air conditioning system are not sexy. Oh, murals and painting and all that stuff, sexy.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to put out there through Facebook and whatever, asking for in-kind companies to donate certain aspects for this project or that project. And we have gotten this is for the lobby, because we're trying to get this all finished before the 100th birthday. We got the lobby promise for the epoxy surfacing of that, the tile work done, the entry to the bathrooms, the scaffolding just recently that will help finish the molding in the theater, install, electrical, the fine folks at Ganal Lumber across the street from you here are doing all new doors in the theater, from the lobby into the theater. That's a very expensive, for those heavy oak soundproof kind of doors. We're just going to be happier with the local contractor support of now, because people can see it now.
Yes.
They are, like I said, we have the wind at our backs, and there's a deadline for the Fox's 100th birthday, and people want to be part of it.
And then just wrapping up on the Fox, because I want to talk to you about a few other things that you've got your little fingers in as well. Is there anything of amazing, sort of like, not necessarily value money-wise, maybe even in history, that you've come across whilst you've been renovating the theatre, that you've gone, oh wow, this is like, means so much, or is so cool? Or
it's not like we've uncovered Al Capone's tomb, right?
Sure.
We get excited when we find
an old stub or something,
an old soda cup
that
was way underneath the seats, that's been there for 60 years or something, from when it was the Western Theaters or something. It's the logo and stuff. It's just an empty paper cup, But it's interesting you mentioned that. Recently, as of last week, we did a test kind of donor event for about 25 people. One of our other donors suggested, hey, I want to bring some people that might want to donate to the theater. can we show a movie or something, a silent movie? And, because we have bathrooms and stuff down, so we said, okay, yeah, we'll do it, right? And this is last Thursday, I think, a week ago from today. And we showed The General, Buster Keaton, right? It's a full-length, 70, I think it's 119 minutes long or so, almost 2 hours or whatever. And to add to it, we hired David Marsh, who's a live organist, to play. He's one of the country's foremost, theatrical organ players. And he brought up his organ. We had to go get it, and with a truck and everything. He brought up his organ, and we put it at the front of the stage, and he played live.
Wow! Look
to
at
Buster
that.
Keaton's The General. And there's a little video of it on our Facebook page that shows him, and it was just wonderful, right? And we raised over $100,000 for the theater. But what we learned, a nugget of information, everybody has always thought that, because we have the holes where these pipe organs, pipe organ lofts, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, oh, whatever happened to the Fox's pipe organ and whatever. David told us, he says, the Foxes never had a pipe organ. It has the organ lofts, but they never installed the organ.
Oh, they were just
decorative.
Decorative, right.
And they never installed the organ. And he said because the organ that ended up at the Fullerton Auditorium, formerly known as the Plumber, got the Fox's organ.
Look at that.
Yeah, like it was canceled from the Wurlitzer Company in the late 20s. And the people building the Plumber said, oh, well, we'll take it and put it in the Plumber. And that,
wow,
actually the Plumber Auditorium has the
organ.
Yeah, and he also said tonight is probably perhaps the first night a live organ has been played in the Fox Theater in 100 years.
Wow.
Because he said, well, what would they have used in the 20s when the theater opened? Because they would have used a piano or a live orchestra. More than likely, they would have used a piano because a live orchestra was very expensive to do from show to show to show, right? To play to the silent movies, so we were pretty excited.
That is cool.
It was kind of sad that, the Fox never had an organ.
Right.
But also kind of cool that...
It's a neat little niche of history, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit of something different.
Yeah. We find those kind of tidbits,
It sort of almost sums up Fullerton, doesn't it? There's just always little bits. You're like, oh my God, I didn't realise.
Little nuggets.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move on a little bit, and I'm sorry, been pretty busy recently, so the name escapes me, but I know you're involved with, it's like a kids...
the Museum of Teaching and Learning, Modal.
Yes, thank you.
The fine folks at the great nonprofit in Fullerton, the Museum of Teaching and Learning, also called Modal. They last year created this really wonderful, and they build, museum exhibits about teaching and learning that are all ex-college professors and teachers like Cal State Fullerton and Cal State Long Beach. And they built this wonderful, very high-tech traveling mobile museum about developing babies' brains, right? And and it's called Your Baby's Amazing Brain, right? And YBAB is the nickname of it. And it's got it's in a big 50-foot semi-truck, and it kind of travels around like the bookmobile, right? And it's designed for public spaces or educational spaces for, young mothers, young fathers, young families, or expecting mothers and families, educators, medical professionals, etc., to really learn from, infancy to 5 years old what happens in a baby's brain. And I got involved with them last year to help them with some of the marketing and sponsorship, acquisitions and things like that. And it's really something that's pretty cool, and it's going to be, rolling down the road to favorite city or shopping center or something.
And you guys don't you work alongside with First 5 OC as well? Isn't that, well, have I seen that around?
I don't know exactly what their relationship is, but they're
because it makes sense. They're sort of like in that world, aren't they? 0 to 5, right?
Yep.
And then I do believe I bumped into one of your, I I don't know if he was a board member or not, at the swearing-in ceremony for Congressman Derek Tran on last Saturday, and she was mentioning that you guys are looking to have a permanent brick house display somewhere. Is that right?
They actually do in downtown Fullerton as part of the church. I'm trying to remember what the address is, but it's right there at Amridge. And,
it's by Monkey Business.
Across from Monkey Business,
right,
but it's one of the church buildings at Amridge and Lemon. And they will have a permanent Museum of Teaching and Learning exhibit and offices there. And, they've been working out of a small place, half the size of
this,
where we're at here, and so they're really thrilled to have a permanent place.
And if people, schools or whoever would like the truck to showcase everything, how do they get around that? How do they do this?
They can go to yourbabysamazingbrain.com. There's a contact us link, and it's pretty easy and pretty self-contained. They need shore power. They have generators, but they can be noisy and smelly and all that stuff. But that's available right now to start booking dates for this year.
That's awesome. So we're reaching our part of the show because there's probably loads you still want to discuss, but we might have missed it. So I want to give you the opportunity. If there's something we've missed, I'd love for you to be able to share or talk about it.
Well, probably the thing that is coming up that I think a lot of your viewers and listeners may be interested in is and it's through the Fox Theater. Our work there is the 10th anniversary of the Fullerton Day of Music event that'll happen on June 21st, all over downtown Fullerton. Again, this is our 10th year doing it, and it's a free citywide music festival. It's free to the public. The musicians play for free, and Fullerton, compared to all the other cities in the make music world, which is everybody celebrating music on June 21st, the summer solstice. And so there's all these other cities in Southern California doing it also. But for the past 2 years, Fullerton has had more participating venues and performing artists than Orange, Anaheim, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Big Bear, Claremont. I think there's a couple of that combined.
Really?
Yeah.
So what makes you think it's just... I know Fender was basically invented in Fullerton, but what makes it such a draw?
Part of it is 10 years. We've had a loyal
following
of supporters and volunteers and bands, and so that's part of it. But also Fullerton is just so damn cool, right? Downtown Fullerton just oozes culture and fun. There's challenges sometime, but that's kind of the business of being a cool city. Right. That's, when people used to complain about the nightlife and whatever downtown, I said, hey, that 21-year-old throwing up on the sidewalk at 1 o'clock in the morning today is going to be the 40-year-old buying a $5 million house in the hills.
That's true.
Someday, because Fullerton was such a great place to grow up in.
Right.
So, and because of the downtown and because Fullerton is a cultural, musical, the Fender, with all the colleges too, it's like just the perfect environment to seed people wanting to be involved in music and getting out. And that day, and this is the first year we'll have it on a Saturday. In 10 years, we've never had it on a Saturday.
That's going to be a big event probably because of the weekend. Yeah.
Between leap years and COVID, whatever, we skipped over any Saturday opportunities we've had to do it. So this is the first year it's on a Saturday. So I'm pretty really excited. Cool. And for chamber members, obviously it's a marketing or branding opportunity to get involved with us as a sponsor.
That's true.
We have tons of sponsors. If you go to the website, you can see all the sponsors, and we do signage and banners and billboards. And last year we did a buy with Spectrum TV advertising, within a few zip codes around Fullerton. But even still, we had over 600 30-second commercials
Wow.
for Day of Music that
a lot.
no event in Fullerton has ever done TV commercials.
Sure.
You know, and we're going to grow that this year.
Right.
You know, so it's a great way to get involved in a fun, one of Fullerton's favorite events. You know?
And do you mind sharing what the website is for that?
That's dayofmusicfullerton.org.
Oh, excellent! That's fantastic.
You know.
And as we're closing off, I know you're still busy with doing a bit of filming or whatever,
Yeah.
but what's on the horizon for Todd over the next few months? Or
Well, I'm going to be traveling a lot with this Blackwater movie, which is great because we get to be around a lot of people we like and friends, and get to interview all these great old legends and new legends and young people, and but developing other projects and have some non-dirt bike related film and video projects, related to historic World War II airplanes and old turn of the century baseball, and so
that's awesome.
lots of great stories out there to tell. So
that seriously is like awesome and exciting, isn't it? Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Todd. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you
pleasure
for
to be
all the things you do, because a lot of this is volunteer work and it's service to the community, and we really appreciate that. And I must admit, I've actually worked with Todd, and he's easy to work for and he's easy to work with, so there's no harm in that at all. So good job. Thank you very much. Thank you again to listeners and viewers for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to Chamber Talk so you don't miss any other episodes. And until next time, stay inspired and keep making an impact.